Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Alex.
And I'm Drew.
And today on the Two Man Comic Book Club podcast, we're going to keep on keeping on with Flash and the Flashpoint event. Let's go.
It's been 17 years
What's the...
since our last Flashpoint episode.
You're editing this. You should put the "It's been 84 years" Titanic gif.
It's been 84 years.
Yeah, we're gonna jump back in. We're gonna jump back in
Yeah.
to the Flashpoint event that we left. And it's gonna be a lot. Drew has read 3 million comics in the last.
To make up for the last few episodes where I've read 0.
How many have you read, do you think?
I think it's around 100. I finished
including
Flashpoint. Yeah.
Sweet Tooth and...
I picked up where I left off with...
Just say we're jumping into what you've been reading early for Drew.
I read the remainder of Flashpoint and all of its tie-ins, which amounted to about 40, maybe 50 books. I read God Country that I borrowed from Alex. If you want to give some... Show it. Yeah. I read that. That was really good. And I also learned that Sweet Tooth, the ad for it came up on Netflix. And then I realized it was on the DC Universe ad. So I was like, I'm going to read that. And oh, sorry. That was my throat. I read the first one and enjoyed it. And I looked and I was like, oh, there's 40 of them. So I basically spent a day and a half and...
You just knocked out Sweet Tooth.
I read all the Sweet Teeth.
40 comics in a day and a half is a lot.
Well, it was really like 100 comics in like 3 days.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's way more than I read like 2 to 3 most days.
I also watched the first season of Daredevil.
So you just really did just catch up for all of them.
Probably 20 episodes of Jeopardy. Not that that's important.
Is there any comic book?
No comic book ones this time, I don't think. Yeah, but...
Well...
What about you?
I've not read as much as you. I'm just going to like staying the course,
I was,
to my 2 or 3
trying to
a day.
remember what it was that how you burned me in the last episode whenever I said I haven't read anything.
Yeah.
But I have a terrible memory.
Well,
so
you're both fired, I think I said.
You're fired.
I have my Marvel Unlimited list up here of like everything I've been reading. I started Wolverine Black, White, and Blood, which is kind of a black, white, and red all the way through art style for a Wolverine book. It's pretty cool.
Like Brightburn?
Yeah. Oh, I finished the X-Men Fantastic Four tie-in, or at least I think as much as what is on Marvel Unlimited. It's all tied into the X-Men stuff. As you know, like Franklin Richards is a mutant, so there's this big like... Where does he belong? Is he supposed to be on Krakoa, or is he supposed to be with his family? Deadpool just finally made it to Krakoa, I think, and a couple things. Basically, there's like so many of these books. The Marauders, Cable #1 started, all the New Mutants. Oh, I read America Chavez, Made in the USA #1. That was another one I got. But I'm like trying to figure out some way to keep reading all these X books until I get caught up, because I'm on like basically issues 8 or 9, depending on which story it is, and they're like getting into the 20s now. But also, while I'm reading those, try to keep on reading all the new ones that hit Marvel Unlimited after that 3-month period, because it really is like there's too much to read and too much to watch, and I'm drowning in awesome comic books. Also, I want to read Sweet Tooth too before I
would recommend it.
Before I watch.
I chose to not go into it too much because we had talked about possibly doing an indie episode.
Yeah.
And I can dig into it then.
Yeah, that'd be a good
one for us to God Country. Yep. Maybe look into a few others, because there's a few other indie books
I have at least 2
on my list
that would be good to add.
Cool.
What about you, Tori?
I haven't read anything, but I did watch Loki.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's that too.
How could we forget? You will see that Tori is sporting the Loki t-shirt.
Yeah.
Which makes him automatically the world's biggest Loki fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and all the other fat guys that bought this.
And the foremost authority on the character.
Yeah. Do you want to do a quick discussion of that episode?
We can very, very easily go into like a full episode on this. We can't. We We're comic book club. Got to get back into the comic books, but it did come out yesterday. Let's just kind of give our general thoughts. What did you guys think?
Spoilers.
Oh,
if you
yeah,
haven't
big
watched
old
Loki, episode
Loki
1,
episode 1 spoilers.
turn back now ahead of the Here Be Dragons.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I liked it. I mean, I was excited about how it set it up.
Yeah.
Like, whenever the episode finished, I was just like, all right.
Ready for more.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know. It set us up, but I wasn't like, man, that was awesome. I was just like, I loved the style of the TVA, kind of that old 60s look.
Yeah.
And just setting everything up. You know, we had talked about if they had some time stones there. And there was that whole scene where
That
they're like,
whole
oh,
drawer of
we're
infinity
using them
stones.
as paperweights.
Yeah.
And that guy,
Eugene
Morbius.
Cordero.
yeah, the one, is that the one who's so funny?
The guy that had the drawer full of
Yeah.
that's Eugene Cordero.
He's really funny, so it was cool to see him in there. Yeah, I liked it, and I feel like we got close on a lot of things that are predictions. I don't remember them because I haven't gone back and listened to it, but as I was watching, I was just like, yeah, this feels like in the vein of kind of what we had suspected,
Right.
to a certain degree.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I would say like almost got my hopes up for one comment I saw. This is why I try to stay off social media the day of, and I just failed the day of a release or something like this. Saw some comments like it was the strongest episode to start in any of the Disney Plus series, or like somebody made some like really bold, this is the best thing the MCU's ever put out after one episode, which, you know, it has to set up stuff. It's like it can't be that grand. But I did really like it. The DB Cooper thing was funny.
Yeah.
Just to find out that was actually Loki who lost a bet to Thor. You know, just funny stuff like that. Really like Owen Wilson's character Morbius. Very curious if they're gonna start being Mephisto whispers again now that we've seen that red pan of the devil in that old church in France, I believe it was.
I thought I recognized that actor of the little kid with the blue teeth.
Yeah.
But I looked him up and I didn't recognize anything that they were in.
Right.
They looked to me like an Olsen.
Yeah.
It looked like Elizabeth Olsen, Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen's sibling. But
Right.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah. What'd you think, Tori?
I liked it a lot. I thought that it's interesting that they're going to be what looks like using this to kind of retroactively fit the narrative of Loki's character, that he wasn't bad.
Right.
Or like that whole conversation that he had with Owen Wilson.
Yeah. Morbius, I think is his name.
Is it Morbius or Mobius?
Mobius might be it. Yeah.
I've heard it both ways
Yeah.
because you've said it both ways. So
Might be it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I forgot what I was going to say.
Wow.
Next.
So there, well, I think we'll wrap up in a second, but it looks like, so I've been curious the whole time, who's, you know, what's the villain? What's the bad guy? What's the plot? What are we going against? So it looks like
It's him
it's him
from the future.
and
Or an alternate line.
and a woman. It's Lady Loki.
Oh, so I was right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Lady.
In a way.
I don't have a confirmation of that. I did see Tom Hiddleston and another actress who I'm forgetting her name standing very on equal footing in this promotional thing.
Oh, I see.
And then we just kind of saw a silhouette of this person at the end of the episode. But
I do remember what I was going to say.
while watching, I was like, it's going to be Lady Loki.
Cool.
I should have a feeling it's comic books, so.
You know, we've been talking about, like, what is the MCU's stance on time travel? Is it fate? Once it happens, it has always happened. Can things change? And with that first episode, they basically answered it. It's whatever the crap they want.
Right.
So it's just like, what is this happening? What? Because I don't remember who asked it, but they were like, it's like, why was this changed but not this? And it was like, well, because that needed to happen and you didn't. So
Yeah.
it's just like, you've got the what do they call
TVA.
it? The sacred timeline that
Right.
the arbiters, is that what they called them? I can't remember what they called them, the three people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I know what
they're
you're talking about. Yeah.
they're watching and they're like, this is what needs to happen. And that's that. But a lot of the tech, like them jumping in and out, like I was just, it looked like I was watching an episode of Legends of Tomorrow.
Cool.
Like it's the same the Time Bureau on Legends of Tomorrow is basically the TVA. They've got little things, doorways that pop up, and they come in, and they take care. Take care of anachronisms. Like that's the one authority member. She made the comment, yeah, this is anachronistic, and that's like exactly the word that the Time Bureau goes back and like we have to fix the anachronism.
Gotcha.
Time. So I was just like seeing a lot of similarities there, but it makes sense.
Right.
You have two gigantic comic book companies. Things are going to be similar from time to time,
For sure.
especially if it's time cops.
Yeah, I was very intrigued by the sacred timeline, unless I misinterpreted it. Like, it seemed like to be for a while the only timeline,
That's what
and then more have been. So it's not like there were always multiple
it
timelines.
almost there was a moment I was like, this almost feels like we're existing post incursion, post
right.
Whatever that was that I read, Secret Wars
Hickman stuff.
almost type thing, because like there were many, now there's one.
Right.
But I guess that's going to change once
Yeah.
the Doctor Strange movie comes out.
I did see an article referring to those three arbiters or whatever they were called. Can you see if you can find at some point the name of those three Time Lords, whoever's in charge of the TVA? This article was claiming, and I cannot claim against them, that middle one, and I had this thought while watching that looked like Kang the Conqueror,
Okay.
who
It's time.
frequents time travel and is,
I
to
thought
my knowledge, and I don't know a
I
ton
almost
about
thought I
Kang.
heard somebody say the word Kang at one point in the episode. I may have just been mishearing,
Yeah.
but I thought I heard somebody drop the name Kang.
I need to watch it again, but it could be a way to kind of discreetly have Kang in the background before we see him in Ant-Man, because he is confirmed to be an Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So curious to see if we see that. Kevin Feige's also been quoted as saying that this will be, of the current series that we have, the one that affects the MCU the most. So it would make sense with time travel, but maybe Kang's in here. I'm curious if we're just going to be having Loki and Lady Loki going at it for 5 more episodes, or what. Seems like that would be likely, But yeah, curious to see what happens. Excited for it. Shot beautifully. Loved all the colors. Love the aspect ratio change for the informational with the
I didn't catch that this time.
the clock cartoon thing. It was cool. I'm ready for more.
Yeah.
It's weird getting it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice though. I guess it breaks up your week. Any other thoughts before we turn this into a Loki podcast?
Did you find what those were called?
There's the time. Are they called the Timekeepers?
That might have been
It might have just been the Timekeepers. Yeah, I can't remember the name. There were 3 of them. They were like obviously established as the bosses at the TVA that were actually like the ones that had the final say over what happens in the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's that's what they're called.
Cool.
I just made it up, the Arbiter thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we don't have anything else to talk about that, I think we have enough time before we need to pause for technical things that I can go ahead and try to rush through some Flashpoint.
Yeah.
So just like if you happen to listen to the last one, I listened to it while I was driving here, just to make sure. We're going to be going fast because, there's 5 Flashpoint books. And you can't. After reading all of them, all the Flashpoint books and all the Flashpoint tie-ins, at least that are available on DC Universe. It's possible that there's some elsewhere that, for whatever reason, weren't included. I feel like, I'm going to say this now, you're fine if you want to just read Flashpoint. The story happens. It makes sense. If you want to read a couple extra ones, if you wanted to pause, like after I say this, if you're like, yeah, maybe I will, you could. I would encourage you to check out the Flying Graysons and Dead Man. I think that was from earlier. The Green Lantern one was pretty interesting. Wonder Woman and the Furies. Anything that says Wonder Woman on it, you should read. Anything that says Superman on it, you should read. Anything that says Emperor Aquaman, you should read. And then after you read Flashpoint 1, check out Dark Knight of Vengeance. That's really good. And then the Deathstroke's okay. It's not super important that I recall. Outsider, I still don't understand how that was important. There's a really fun Frankenstein and some monsters run. That's just fun. 3 issues. World of Flashpoint is interesting, though I'm not sure how relevant it was by the time it was over. Booster Gold, that was fun. Check out the Booster Gold ones. I like that because, for some reasons I'll get to in a minute. Lois Lane and the Resistance, it's pretty important. But yeah, you could basically read the Flashpoints and you'd be fine, or any of those that I just mentioned. So I'm going to, and the Secret Seven. There's all these, Secret Seven, Citizen Cold, what would I just say, Deathstroke ones. They're important peripherally. And it's like they had a 3-issue run of a bunch of these books so that they could have a cameo in the final moments. And you would know what's been going on with them.
Yeah, it's tricky because sometimes in these big tie-ins, you have varying amounts of commitment to how much is whoever or whatever creative team is willing to veer off the path from the story they are trying to tell just to do it. Because, there's, going to the business side, definitely pressure to all right, we got to tie in here to sell more comic books. People want to get the whole story. But as you were saying, it's kind of varying levels of pertinent to the story.
I'd like to think that if you're listening to this, you've listened to the other one, but just in case you haven't, I'm going to give a quick 60-second catch-up of...
I love catch-up.
Thank you. Of what happened up to here. So we read a bunch of Flash books leading up to it, and actually those are kind of important. The one that had Hot Pursuit in it, who was a Flash-type person, who was Barry Allen from a different timeline, a different universe. He shows up because there's a time anomaly that he's in search of. Anyway, that's not... But we've basically been reading about Flash and Reverse Flash headbutting, trying to get to something. And then when Flashpoint 1 opens up, Barry Allen wakes up. He hears about a disturbance, because Barry Allen is the Flash. He hears about a disturbance, and he jumps up to run off and fix it, but he doesn't have his speed. Not only does he not have his speed, but somehow his mother's alive, who in the original timeline had died. So Flash doesn't exist. Superman doesn't exist here. Somehow we've learned that Wonder Woman is heading up the Amazons, who have just are at war with Aquaman, and the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans have sunk half of Western Europe, hundreds of millions dead. I think 118 million is the number they said. The Amazons have somehow taken over London and is New Themyscira, and it's half a mile in the sky. So that's going on. The Grog, the super intelligent gorilla, has taken over the entirety of Africa. There's all kinds of other things going on. America hasn't quite gotten into it. So anyway, Flash is trying to talk to his mom, and he learns that Batman does exist. So he goes to Gotham City and he finds Batman, but big spoiler there, we find out it's not Bruce Wayne, it's Thomas Wayne. And that's how Flashpoint 1 ends, bringing us to here. I'm going to stop and catch my breath for a second, and then...
That was truly feels like after you've been a comic book fan long enough, you've heard of this alternate version of Batman being Thomas Wayne, where instead of the parents dying, Bruce and Martha don't make it, and that's what drives Thomas into being it. So, but at the time, that was a pretty big, heavy-handed way to end the issue and grab everybody, because I think he showed up in several other comics.
The reason we jumped over to this is because I started reading Watchmen, or I started reading Doomsday Clock, which is supposed to bring Watchmen into the DC universe, and it opened up with basically the fallout of this. So I was just like,
okay, I didn't know that event started that way.
Specifically the last few scenes of Flashpoint number 5, and you could turn the page directly over, and it's cool. It feels like you're basically turning the page to the button that we had talked about covering. So that's why I went back to read Watchmen, and then I got sidetracked, and now we're on this, and I haven't finished all of the Watchmen tie-ins.
Right.
I read the main Watchmen. Anyway, so if it's a tie-in book, I'm going to talk about it as briefly as I can. If it's a Flashpoint book, I'm going to go into it quite a bit. And I don't think we said it in the opening. It'll say it, like, if you were listening to this, you've already seen the title. We're covering up through Flashpoint 3 in this one. And then in the next one, we'll cover 4 and 5 and all the tie-ins. Unless somehow I talk so quickly that we make it through it in one episode. But I don't expect that.
That would be a wild episode.
Yeah. So, there are like 4 series that happened between Flashpoint 2, where we just stopped with Thomas Wayne reveal, and then Flashpoint 2. We have Outsider number 1, Secret 7, 1 through 3, Citizen Cold, 1 through 3, and Deathstroke number 1. And I took like 2 sentences of notes on these, but basically suffice it to say, we learn that in this universe during Citizen Cold, or the Citizen Cold, I can't remember he killed Wally West. That's no good. Who is Iris West's brother. He goes on to become Flash, and actually I watched a video the other day where apparently he goes on to be even faster than Barry Allen, which is pretty cool. At the end of Deathstroke 1, or during Deathstroke, we learned Deathstroke is a pirate in this world. Like, he is actually on a ship riding around. He's always had these sailor boots and stuff, so he's literally a pirate. But that's also, like I said, I had a lot more notes on some of the tie-ins coming in. That's all I had for those 3.
That's fine. There's so much that if we like summarized all of it, it'd be...
And honestly, after reading it, the notes that I even mentioned don't come into play. So, jumping into Flashpoint number 2, we are on Flashpoint, or on Deathstroke's ship. It's like they took the last little bit, what happened at the end of Deathstroke 1, and recycled it and put it at the beginning of Flashpoint 2. So, we're on Deathstroke's ship, and they apparently got kind of off track, because they pull up, and the Eiffel Tower is like on its side, sticking up out of the water. So they've like made it way too far inland. And next we know Aquaman and his brother Orm, the Ocean Master, like I think the Ocean Master was there. They jump up and just like start attacking Deathstroke, because they're like, you're in our territory, you should not be here. But that's kind of like it. We end with it looking like Aquaman has skewered Deathstroke and like dying.
And this is in that Deathstroke tie-in, right?
That and Flashpoint 2.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It was like the same exact things told from a different perspective. Then Flashpoint, the thing with the Flashpoint title books are they jump quickly.
Right.
All these stories, they're trying to tell so many things in 5 books, 130 pages. So we're back in the Batcave, picking up from there. Barry realizes that he is actually on... Somehow he realizes he's on his world. It's not an alternate universe like he's jumped between. Because he's starting to have these memory collapses where like his memories from his old world are disappearing and the new timeline are like crashing their way out. And he's like, oh. And that's when he realizes, Bruce died.
Right.
Not Thomas. So he tries to pull out Earbard's, or the Flash suit, and realizes that it's the yellow one from Reverse Flash. Like, Reverse Flash is playing a trick on him. And at that point, Thomas is starting to believe something about it. He's like, Barry says he needs to find Thawne to fix things, because he just feels like Thawne is responsible for the Flashpoint. I don't think he's actually called it Flashpoint at that point yet. But he's like, but first I need to get my speed, which makes sense because even though Barry Allen's pretty cool, he's not going to be able to stand up without his speed.
Right.
So we jump again, and we find, whenever I was reading this, I was like, I wonder if this is Steve Trevor. But yeah, we find out Steve Trevor is fighting a new Themyscira. He's trying to find Lois Lane. And it's just like...
Okay.
Yeah, because Lois Lane, we've learned before, she's undercover in New Themyscira trying to find things. That was a very short intermediary scene. Then we jump back to Barry and Thomas, and they're on the top of Wayne Manor with this electric chair. And all the chemicals, like basically trying to get him to get struck by lightning and jumpstart his speed. Just because I've seen him do this before, like in the TV series. Like, oh, I didn't have my speed. Well, I just need to recreate the conditions, and they do, but it doesn't work. He's just like got 3rd-degree burns all over his body.
Yeah.
So, but then,
I'm looking at that panel right now of him, like with his skin burned. It looks
that's basically the end of it, isn't it?
pretty gnarly. Yeah, he like stands up. I think he's got his powers, right?
No, he doesn't yet.
Or maybe I'm looking from another one.
Yeah. So, well, I just wrote end issue. Then I wrote talk through map of page 25. I don't know what page 25 I'm referring to. Do you
We're
have
on
page 25 of
we're on
number
number
2?
2. Let me see if I can.
I think we'll have time to maybe talk through the map before.
25?
Yeah, page 25.
World map.
Yeah. So I'll put this up here, but this is just an interesting. If you're listening, sorry. If you're watching, basically it tells us, all right, the war zone is all around Europe, and it kind of tells you what's going on around the world. But what you need to know is America's not in it yet. Europe is pretty messed up.
Pretty self-contained.
So yeah. And I think that might be an organic place to pause and change batteries and such, and then we'll come back and I will race through the rest of the tie-ins in Flashpoint 3.
See you in a second.
All right, and we're going to jump back in. Now I'm just going to talk really quickly through some of the stuff that happens in Deathstroke, because it's interesting, not necessarily that it directly actually goes into affecting all that much. But Deathstroke didn't die. He does have healing factor. It's just happening slowly. But we learned that before they got attacked by Aquaman, I couldn't remember that, they had intercepted a meta-girl in some sort of stasis chamber. And she becomes pretty important, and some other people come looking for her. But her name is Jenny Blitz, and she basically, kind of like pyrokinesis type stuff. Like but also she can just make things explode, whatever.
Spontaneous.
So she
kind of thing.
takes out an entire other pirate fleet just by kind of pointing her fingers. So, but anyway, people get upset. The entire crew mutinies. The whole story ends with basically everybody dead. Aquaman's long gone. Sorry. The pirate crew has mutinied. Basically, Deathstroke's somehow alive. His daughter's alive because they were trying to find her this whole time. I never once said that in this entire lead up, that Deathstroke was looking for his daughter.
If you aren't reading these comic books.
Yeah. And then Jenny Blitz is alive. And then but I think Deathstroke gets away somehow. I can't remember what the deal was. But like I said, after finishing reading it, it doesn't end up being all that relevant.
Yeah.
Unless the world goes on, which, okay. So then I got to complain about DC Universe for a second. Normally it's awesome because you can read these multi-title series and it just advances you one after the next. But for whatever reason, after I read Deathstroke 3, it took me to Emperor Aquaman, and I read Emperor Aquaman 1, 2, and 3, only to realize that I wasn't supposed to read those for 20 more comics. So
that sucks. So you spoiled yourself.
Yeah. But anyway, so we move on to Outsider, and I wrote Outside number 2, ? And then no notes. So there we go.
Not important.
Yeah. I was wondering if Outsider existed on other storylines because I'd never heard of him before. Kind of makes me think of if Lex Luthor were somehow made of stone and seemingly impervious to damage. Kind of that type of a guy who, whenever he was a baby, somehow obliterated his entire village in Pakistan or whatever.
Right.
So then we move on to Dark Knight of Vengeance. Man, I'm going to go ahead and give a secondary round of spoilers here. If you have not read Dark Knight of Vengeance, then I'm about to say some stuff.
Yeah, he texted us right after he wrote this and was like, I know I told you guys just to read the main ones and I'll cover all the tie-ins, but if you're feeling like it, read this one. And yeah.
Yep.
So check this one out.
So I'm going to just try to read these notes and be quick. I've got to say, first off, I didn't take a whole lot of notes in the first two. We just, we already learned that Thomas Wayne is Batman in the Flashpoint universe. And this kind of tape, for a second, I thought we were back in time. But this is actually later. I thought we were seeing backstory. But it's like he's picking up, he's still trying to find Joker because Harvey Dent's kids are still missing. And so he's looking after Joker. I've got to say, my notes for I don't know which issue this is, but I said, wow, page 15 of number 2, that was dark. That's what I wrote on my notes. And I think I remember what it was. Not a whole lot happened in the first issue, but in the next one, Commissioner Gordon, I don't remember if he's commissioner in this or not, but apparently he knows that Thomas Wayne is Batman.
Right.
And so does Penguin, who wasn't actually Penguin. It was just Oswald Cobblepot.
Right.
Because they were talking about it. No big deal. And like following him down to the Batcave. Anyway, so Gordon gets a tip about where Dent's kids are. And he finds them and he walks in and the little boy is like tied up and it looks like Joker has like guns pointed at him, like grinning, and he looks like Heath Ledger's Joker in this. And without even looking, Gordon just shoots at Joker. And when Joker flies back, it's actually the girl, and Joker has put a wig of him on there, taped guns in her hands, and like she was basically shadowed. So Gordon just like killed the girl. And I was just like, oh my God, wow. And
that is dark.
Yeah. So let me see, what else did I write? Okay. So I'm just going to read my notes and hope that it makes sense. Joker has kid sister dressed as Joker. Gordon shoots false Joker. And then Joker, the real Joker, runs in and slits Gordon's throat. And then I guess Joker makes a video call to Batman, probably using Gordon's phone, and is making a video call and kind of shows what has just happened.
The damage.
And then Thomas Wayne's like, what have you done this time, Martha? Yeah, this is the one. Martha didn't die, and Martha became Joker.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was so distraught at losing Bruce. I knew that happened in some world.
Okay.
And yeah, so Martha became the Joker of this world. And
Thomas became Batman.
Both distraught for losing Bruce and striking out in different paths. Wow. So yeah. Then we go on. Thomas chases Martha. This is book 3. I'm just going to read this again. Tells her he has a way to change the past so that Bruce never died. And that's where I realized, okay, we are in the past. He's already talked to Barry.
Right.
And she's just like, yeah, you have to do it. Even though it means they would die. If it means Bruce lives.
Right.
Like she has a moment of sanity where she's like, do it. You have to do it. And then she runs away because she was like, so Bruce Wayne grows up, is he successful? And he's like, actually, he turns into Batman, and he's basically me. And that's like makes Martha, Joker, really angry. She runs off, and she falls into that bat cave on the property, and she dies.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just like, at least we think she dies.
Right.
I was just like, oh, okay, well, that's the end of the issue.
That's a heavy issue.
Yeah. But it was pretty intense. And then the next one that we read is Flashpoint 3. So after that...
This one opens up like pretty intensely showing the aftermath of him taking that lightning bolt and just cooking his body, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had... I think this happened before, but President is talking to Cyborg, saying basically, your super people didn't come together. So
Right. Yeah, that's in here.
we got us. The humans are going to do it. We're going to send in the military. Then we jump, and Barry is on the table, and he's like, just not doing well. He's talking about, I'm forgetting everything. And he was like, we got to try again. And Thomas is like, what are you talking about? You're almost dead.
Right.
But they get up on the roof, and there's always a thunderstorm at the manor when they need it. But before Barry can even get into the electric chair, lightning strikes and blows Thomas off of the roof.
Yeah.
And like Barry's getting knocked back, and then you see the flash emblem gleaming in his eyeballs. And you're like, oh, it worked. And then we see that Thomas is like falling, about to get impaled on these gothic looking
Like fence.
Yeah. But then in the background you see that lightning, the lightning of Barry running, and catching him's like, told you. Mm-hmm. And then we jump away, and we finally see what last episode I was like, what's the deal with Cricket, Canterbury Cricket, because he had a whole series. But at some point Lois and Canterbury Cricket meet up, and they're talking in New Themyscira. So like pieces are coming together.
The Resistance.
It's kind of telling you, if you had been reading the entire series the whole way along, you'd be like, oh, okay, I see how these are piecing together. They're just kind of showing me where I am in the timeline. And then Flash is like, he like, I need a suit, this friction-free suit, but I'm not about to wear this this yellow one.
Yeah.
He's like, I could just speed up real fast and change the molecules and do this, but you got enough stuff here. It'd be easier for me to just make my own. So he just runs around Thomas Wayne's Batcave and makes his own.
Like literally one panel to one panel. He does
He's made
he does it really fast.
Yeah. And then Cyborg, they get to Cyborg, and did I skip something? Oh, I think I made a note. Read page 16. Do you have page 16 by any chance?
Page 16.
I think I just decided it would be easier to read it.
You read like the whole page?
Sure.
And we'll put this up here in the video. Hold on, let me turn this so I can actually read it well. So Flash asks, is this your only computer? And Bruce says, yes. If this reverse Flash has the same powers as you, how is he able to alter history and you're not? Flash responds, simple science. For every negative, there is a positive. So not so simple science. Thawne is powered by a negative speed force. I gotta zoom in here. He's powered by a negative speed force, one he creates by corrupting the speed force energy that I generate. The negative speed force gives him a variety of abilities that I don't have. He can manipulate his own age, determine objects with a touch, deteriorate objects with a touch, rather. And he can change the past. And then they make a passing comment like, this is taking forever to boot up. And then Bruce says, but you can travel through time, Flash. Normally, yes, if my powers are at their full capacity, but like I said, it's going to take me some time to get up to speed. Bruce asks, why can't you alter history? Flash says, trying to alter anything in the past is like trying to swim up a waterfall. The current of time fights against it, and rightly so. Then Bruce looks over his shoulder, or it's not Bruce, I keep saying Bruce, it's Thomas. He says, "Murr." Yeah. And then Flash says, that's the Batman Murr. You're saying something about saying something. Your son did it too. What is it? And Thomas says, it sounds like you're holding yourself back, like you haven't really tried. Flash says, because it's dangerous, Dr. Wayne. One small, seemingly meaningless event can topple over a row of dominoes, like a rock thrown through a windshield that can leave cracks throughout history. And then Thomas says, the butterfly effect. Flash says, yes, but in this case, there's too much that's altered around the people closest to me, and it has to be orchestrated. Multiple attacks on the history of my friends and allies. Without any other speedsters out there, Thawne knew the first thing I would do is try to reassemble the Justice League, so he took them out of the equation, or he tried to.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was just a lot of information. I think specifically I just wanted to go in and why can he do this and you can't? And just different powers. Negative speed force is different than Barry's speed force. So then we jump forward a little bit, and basically, I think, I can't remember if it goes into it, but somehow he calls Barry and Thomas, get in touch with Cyborg, and they're like, all right, we're in. And they're like, okay, and Barry's like, we need to break out Superman. Which, if you listen to the last one, Superman in this world crashed into Metropolis instead of Kansas, and in the process, like decimated Metropolis, killing like millions of people. But the military took him, and they've basically been keeping him isolated. So he's like never seen the sun. He's never been out. He's basically, I think Lois Lane might be the only person he's ever met because Sam Lane, her dad, is like in charge of the thing. Anyway, so they go to Superman, the Project Superman, to break him out. And once they make it into the sun, Superman looks up and he's just like, what is this? I've never seen it. He just like flies away. And at that point, that's like the first that they've actually seen that he has any powers at all, because he's just this frail little kid. And they're like, well, I guess he's not going to help. And then Sam Lane's forces come out, and Cyborg, Batman, and Flash are just about to get attacked. And that's whenever the issue ends.
Yeah, I would say, like, Superman does not look great here.
No.
Like, he looks like a sickly kid.
You didn't grow up on a farm tossing hay bales. You grew
Right.
up in a 5x5 cell, never even getting to see outside.
I've never seen the sun. Yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't look great.
So yeah, I know that was a lot, but that's it. You know, for this first little bit, there are some other things that we can go over. How long until the next Flashpoint?
I feel like those two are like two special ones. I mean, again, like there's with all comic series like this, especially an event as big as Flashpoint, like you can go as far down the rabbit hole as you want to. But this one does a pretty good job of not punishing you for not buying every DC comic that was coming out at this time.
Yeah. I think maybe what I'll do, I'm going to talk about a few books that happened, because this episode's running a little shorter than
Right.
expected. I don't think it's short enough that I could run through the rest of it.
Right.
But let me talk you through the next 5 or 6 tie-in books, and then we'll take a break and jump into
Some trivia.
So after this, we move on to Lois Lane and the Resistance, and we find that the Resistance is looking for somebody, Penny Black. I can't remember what her last name was, Penelope or something. But she, at some point, this may happen later, but it's trivial when I tell you, she was in basically the Manhattan Project. On Pseudophiles, you talked about it. Is the Manhattan Project the thing where the ship disappeared?
That's the Philadelphia.
The Philadelphia experiment. Basically, the Philadelphia experiment happens. But in this world, the Britain was using it. They had like this top secret, like cloaking or something ship, but it like exploded, disappeared, and the only survivor was this Penny.
Oh, cool.
And when she came out, she had like all these technology, like she basically had like circuits in her body. And the British government made this super suit, like Iron Man type suit. And she was super powerful in it. But whenever Wonder Woman took over, she basically lost it, and she's been in captivity. But the Resistance is trying to find this Mark II suit to put her in it so that she can actually fight. So that's what's happening. Lois Lane and the Resistance, they're teaming up to go try to find Britannia. That's the suit.
Right.
Find Britannia's suit. Then we had some that were really fun. I have different feelings about Booster Gold. He's an interesting character. Basically, he came from the future. Like, he was a nobody in like the 23rd, 24th century. But he got his hands on a Legion of Superheroes ring, which basically allows him to fly and has superpowers. And a really, in this little robot that flies around with him that is basically telling him what's happening in the future. So he came back in time so that he could basically like, oh, this is about to happen. I'm going to go and save these people and become famous. So he's like in it for the glory.
Right.
But somehow Booster Gold shows up in Coast City, not realizing what's going on, and everybody thinks that he's Atlantean, and they're attacking him. And he's like, what's going on? Why isn't Flash here? And you're like, ooh. Or maybe Green Lantern. I think he was, looking for Green Lantern. So we realize somehow Booster Gold is from the original Flash timeline. And we will basically learn he was in transit through time when this happened. So he was kind of like sheltered from it.
Perfectly in limbo.
Yeah. Let me just read this. Military thinks he's Atlantean and attack multiple times. And then they send in Doomsday, who they have found, but they have like a neural interface on him, so they're controlling him. And he's like, "Oh, no, not Doomsday. This is Superman. Barely was able to take this guy out." So they're fighting him, but because he's controlled, he doesn't ever quite lose his rage. But anyway, he got away, and he's as Booster's flying away, he ends up finding this woman named Alexandria, which we later find out is basically, I think, the personification of Parasite in this world, who, if she touches somebody, she can absorb their powers for a short time, kind of like Rogue of the X-Men. Anyway, they're on their way. They're going to go. He wants to try to find Batman, kind of like Flash did. But before he can get there, Doomsday finds him, and he breaks free from his mind control. And in the end of the 3rd issue of the Booster Gold sub-arc, he's still fighting Doomsday. But Doomsday is like on his own. Like he's lost his helmet that allows one of the military guys to control him.
Oh, cool.
But I thought that was really interesting. Like this is the first time we've had somebody who came from the original timeline, but it was just interesting.
Is he also aware that he's in a different?
He puts the pieces together a little bit later. He's like, this is messed up. Right. Something has changed. And I'm going to talk about one more chunk of books, and then this is going to take 30 seconds. Then we're going on. We have a bunch of, I can't even remember what they were called, but Frankenstein and a bunch of his monsters that were apparently controlled by the U.S. government to go in and like finish World War II. Like in this timeline, Frankenstein went and found Hitler when he was in his bunker and killed him, and then they froze him again, and then they forgot about him. But whenever Batman and Cyborg and Flash went in to try to release Superman, they accidentally awoke all of these monsters, and they're just going off, and they kind of just have their own adventure parallel to it. I think they do show up in one of the final battles, but that was, when I finished that 3-book run, I was like, that was fun.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun to read. So if you just like to see what Frankenstein and some werewolves and fish monsters are doing, give that one a look. That one's a lot of fun. And then, so I'll just try to go through the next ones a little bit at the beginning of the next issue, where we will cover Flashpoint 4 and 5 and wrap up the whole series.
Cool. I know this one's a lot for even us. Like it's a dense one to at least try to flash through. But it is worth it. You should absolutely check these out again. They're all on the, what's the DC app now called?
DC Universe Infinite.
DC Universe Infinite.
Dunder Mifflin Infinity.
Dunder Mifflin Infinity. Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky. Terrible name for an app, by the way. You should get on there and read that one, or all of these rather. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break and get our trivia ready, and we'll be right back.
And we're back.
Did you forget that you had one?
No, I was just like, I started, because I was trying to be quiet before I started, and then I realized I didn't have enough breath to finish.
Right.
I'm going to try that again. And we're back with our lightning round trivia, where the questions are faster than the expression on Alex's face whenever I said, "What did you do this time, Martha?" Yeah, about the
See
joke.
how fast that expression was?
It was so fast. So fast. You want to go first, or you want?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay. By the way, I forgot to look up. We had 0 points after the last one because the episode ended with our false ending. I don't remember what the score was after the pre-Flashpoint episode.
We can just call it. It's likely that neither of us got anything right.
You want to just start?
We'll start
it's a new season.
0, yeah. I was inspired by first Dan Slott yesterday tweeting about Booster Gold, and then you talking about him today. So I went and found some Booster Gold trivia. I think I actually knew or at least were able to guess this one, just based on something I've consumed before. Booster Gold is probably not on the name of a bunch of people's list that they can actually name. You know, I don't want to say obscure.
He's niche.
Right. Niche. Like, you got to be a comic fan to know who that is.
I think when people like him, they love him.
Right.
Just because he's that guy.
Booster Gold has what is more or less understood to be kind of his bro or his best friend. Who is that character?
You mean the little robot?
No. It's another hero.
Oh. I have no idea, but I'm going to make a guess. Or can I ask for a hint? Is it, are we talking best friend from the future or from like kind of now times?
All, like, he's kind of been with this other character several times. They get along. Okay. I will say, the last small hint, he's kind of a hero in the same vein as popularity as Booster Gold would be.
Okay.
Maybe slightly more.
Okay. But I don't know the answer, so I'm just going to make a guess and say Brainiac 5.
No. It's Blue Beetle.
Okay. Yeah.
I only
he did actually mention him in the book.
Oh, okay.
Like he was talking maybe it's Blue Beetle. Or I think he did. Or that might have been one of the Green Lantern.
Yeah, it's actually, I guess, the second Blue Beetle technically.
Okay.
Ted Cord.
I don't know much about Blue Beetle either.
Yeah. He's the majority of what I've seen him in is in that DC Young Justice animated series.
Okay.
Which I'm pretty sure they're bros in that one too, if I'm remembering right. I know he's for sure, and I think it's Booster Gold that he's around with. But Blue Beetle's a cool character because he's like super strong, but he can't get rid of the Blue Beetle thing on his back that kind of takes over sometimes. So not completely unlike the whole Dr. Fate thing. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Cool character.
My question's not that great, but because I know that we've discussed the answer before, it's just a matter of that was 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. So we keep talking about Reverse Flash, but he also goes by another name. Do you remember what that was?
Reverse Flash. I feel like it's somewhere in there, but probably under a lot of cheese. Reverse Flash. Negative Flash.
No.
Dang. That's without spending the rest of the podcast as close as I was going to get.
Do you think you remember?
No.
Professor Zoom. Remember that?
Yeah. I do remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna try to come up with something better, but I'm just kind of my brain is addled from having to read all those notes.
Most of our listeners probably also didn't know that, so we're trying to educate the people.
Yeah. So that was it for this one.
I actually do have one.
Oh, never mind.
Ooh, he found one
Yeah.
in the 11th hour.
It's another round of Name That Supervillain.
Name that supervillain.
We'll do this real quickly. This supervillain was mistaken for Loki and took Loki's superpowers.
Was mistaken for Loki and took his powers.
Yeah, without going into too much detail. What I said.
So it is a he.
Yeah, I gave you a clue there, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I was guessing a female at first. I was going to say Rogue. She was a villain at one point and takes powers. I'm going to say Laufey, the Dark Elf.
Do you have a guess, Drew?
I was just going to say, because I was just trying to think of somebody who might have potentially the same idea. I was just going to say Mephisto.
No. This is Dirk Garthwaite, otherwise known as the Wrecker. I didn't know if anybody even knows who that is.
I have read, I think, one comic with the Wrecker in it. And I couldn't even tell you what comic it was.
He was a manual laborer for a demolitions crew who turned to a life of crime. That's basically it.
Sounds like you got a fast one in on Loki.
So
I'm the god of mischief.
000.
Triple zeros.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Well, where can they find us on social media, Drew?
Find us on Twitter at 2Man Comic Book with the number 2. Instagram, Facebook, the 2Man Comic Book Club with the number 2. Or 2mancomicbookclub.blogspot.com. I said that really fast.
Like the Flash?
Yeah. Shoot us an email, 2mancomicbookclub@gmail.com. And better yet, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you leave a 5-star rating and a review, we will read whatever you have to say, so long as the Bureau of Normality will allow it.
Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, share the video with your friends and family, your enemies even. Just share it. That's fine. If you want to find us on social media, you can find me at Alex Wayne Miller on all social media accounts. Wayne is Wayne,
As in
just
Thomas?
like Thomas Wayne, because I am Batman.
Sorry, I just stepped all over you and said that. That's fine. That's got to be what you were going to say anyway.
Fine, Martha.
Oh, no.
Where can they find you?
Drew Morris Comp on Twitter, Drew Morris Composer elsewhere. What about you?
People can find me on the internet.
If you want to find him, you will.
Yeah. I thought of something that I needed to say beforehand.
Was it about Martha
No.
or Thomas Wayne?
It was something. Oh, yeah, I got it now. By the way, we're still dialing in the sound. If you've listened this far, you're a true fan, obviously. There was there's some sound happening in the other room, and there will be in the next episode probably too. So thank you for bearing with us. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. But
Yep.
got to do what we got to do.
Get it ironed out soon. Cool. That's been it for this episode of 2Man Comic Book Club Podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye. Two Man Comic Book Club podcast is hosted by Alex Miller and Drew Morris. Our graphic and logo work is done by Tessa Price, and our original compositions and theme music were composed by Drew Morris.